Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations, as always, to the elect. News and prophecy, where we link the things happening worldwide to the Holy Scriptures, so that the remnant of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, all right, can know and be assured that all of these things are happening, all right, as a direct reflection of the will of the Lord, all right, so that you can remain rooted, faithful, all right, and assured of the outcome for the faithful elect, as many great miseries are being prepared for the people on the planet Earth via the great wrath of the seed of Satan, the lineage of evil, the biblical Edomites, in whom many in this world still trust. All right. And he's setting up a scenario on the planet Earth, all right, where dependency has left, all right, the Most High. People are no longer dependent on the provision of Yahweh, all right, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, all right, who sets up particular rulers on the planet Earth. And the rulers on the planet Earth, pursuant to the scriptures, are supposed to what? Promote the will of the Lord, promote fear of the Lord, all right, promote justice, righteousness. All right, well, that's not so with this ruler or any of the rulers of the heathen, but this one is the worst, as we're witnessing a squeeze. We're witnessing, psychological operations, mind games associated with breaking people, all right, treating them as, fish wandering in the sea, all right, throwing out, carrots. As one of the brothers, I just saw one of the bishops or the elders did a video talking about the dangling carrot, getting people, to chase it to their own demise, as people are being led into the NWO, as the collapse of this system is imminent. Okay, they are ultimately preparing a new system, which is going to be based upon, of course, biometric, digital ID, more control, and that's what we're going to get into in this lesson, which we know will all lead to the MOTB. Okay, this is what the elites are using the people who they set before you, all right, to usher in all of the promises that they promised you with this whole MAGA, fiasco, are being broken right before your very eyes. All right. And they continuously talk about there will be no more elections because this may be it. All right. We believe that the MOTB is going to come in our lifetime. You have some people who say they believe in the Bible. When you talk about this being the end, as the scriptures say, they put far off the evil day. They would rather, continue to marinate here. All right. And the talking point of the kingdom of heaven being set up on earth is too far out for them. All right. Because of the psychological damage that has been done, all right, by this system. See, well, the elect, pursuant to Isaiah, the 10th chapter, okay, are going to separate, all right, no longer lean upon him. As a matter of fact, let's get that in the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter. Okay, this is what we're being prepared for. The Lord is getting ready to work a mighty work via his elect, but it's going to come with a great sacrifice in this flesh. All right, just as Yahweh Shai was born for his sacrifice. All right, the only reason we were born into this earth, although we have, our daily lives, we have jobs, we have families, whatever it may be, the true will of the Lord bringing us into the earth is to work this great and marvelous work that he's getting ready to work. All right, and delivering his remnant elect out of this place. But we know we go from glory to glory. All right, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, we've been able to prophesy. We've received the understanding of his son, which that's the greatest gift to have in these times. to understand the sacrifice, understand the blood amongst, all of these religions and churches and all of this confusion, that are tied to the Bible. The Lord has given us the true understanding. All right. And that's as a means to separate us mentally, spiritually, all right, and eventually physically from this world. Now, this is Isaiah 10 and 20. And it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Jacob shall no more again stay upon him that smote them. Okay, and who smote us? All right, our enemy. The rulers of this world have shown us that they hate us. Okay, and we know the history of our people being here, and we know that it was a punishment. Okay, just like the Assyrians in this chapter. Okay, the rod that they brought forth to Israel was of the Lord. So we know and understand that the judgment we received was warranted. Okay, but there's another side of that judgment. Okay, there's another side of the Lord allowing you heathens to do things. He judges you for it. And this place, Babylon the Great, is about to be judged in a fashion that no other kingdom has ever went out. So we're no longer again going to stay upon him that smote them, but shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel. And when you look up this word stay, okay, we get it all the time, but let's just get it again. Shayan, all right, Shayan, to lean on, to trust in, support, to lean on, support oneself, okay? So, the past, our life has been rooted and leaning on Esau, Edom. Although we know the Lord has provided for us and nourished us through this system. All right. We've been used to jobs. We've been used to, going to markets. We've been used to, leaning on his system as a means for, how we get our food, how we get our water, how we get everything. Although we know it was the Lord. All right. There's coming a time where, all right, relying, as you can see here, relying on Esau, Edom. All right. Another word for it is to rely, to lean on. That's only going to draw you, all right, further into temptation to rebel against Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. So you have to be assured, all right, and live in a high level of faith that the Lord is going to provide as we lose particular things and as they go deeper and deeper into this system of control where ultimately they're taking dependency away from the Most High. That's what this system has done. Okay, and now provision and everything is rooted in him and these corporations via these systems that they've set up. Okay, through witchcraft, man, through mind control, through psyops. Okay, we find ourselves here where the majority of the earth's resources are in the hands of a small percentage of people. Okay, and now they're playing mind games, all right, with necessities and mind games, with jobs, with aid, and all of these various different things that are going to cause people to snap. So the elect, all right, let's get it in Habakkuk. We'll go right back to that. Habakkuk chapter 2 and 4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. So we're no longer going to lean on this devil. There's coming a time where we're going to have to, as this thing, and it seems impossible in the flesh, but with Yahweh Shai, okay, all things are possible, man. So we're no longer going to stay or lean on this devil. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty power. For though thy people Israel be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return. The consumption decreed shall overflow with righteousness. Okay, so provision, stability, well-being, all of that is promised and guaranteed during these hard times that we're getting ready to witness on the planet Earth. As people are being led, okay, into Esau's straight gate, all right, for the purpose of them bowing to his image and taking his mark, as food banks across the country are being overwhelmed by a tsunami of hungry people. Okay. And a lot of these people are people who were going to work every day, right? And didn't have enough to pay their bills, didn't have enough to pay their rent, didn't have enough to go and get food. So they joined these government assistant programs, right? Because not everybody that was relying on SNAP and food stamps were just, a bunch of people laying around popping out kids. That's a percentage of them. But a lot of them are, average, everyday working Americans who just don't have enough. Okay. And as your enemy, right, the Trump administration, when you look in the news, what do you see? You type in SNAP, you see, okay, they're going to pay half benefits. They're going to, I got SNAP fatigue, food stamp fatigue. I'm tired of even hearing about it, but this is all what's in line with biblical prophecy. So we got to go into it. Okay. While they, put a black face or so-called black face at the forefront of SNAP and food stamps, many Americans of many different nationalities, as all of these mingled people are over here, many of them are suffering. It's not just Jake. Okay. But, there was a order by the Supreme Court, okay, for Trump to pay benefits. Okay. Then I don't know. It's all over the place. Okay. The Trump administration demands, that no, we're not sending full benefits. The next day they're going to send half benefits. It's all over the place. Okay. And what this is a psychological operation to drain people. Okay. Your enemy is at work here. Okay. He, this amongst many things. All right. Because there's getting ready to be another, planned, demic that's getting ready to, be pulled out of their back pocket as well. Okay. They're going to hit you from all angles to get you to just drain people. And that's what they've been doing from 2020 going forward. I mean, even before that, but to just keep everything in perspective. If you saw what happened from 2020 going forward, okay, it was a hijack by the elite in preparation for where we are now. All right. And they're not going to stop. Even if they so-called reopen the government, okay, there's going to be something else. Okay. So you're seeing mind games being played on the people. Okay. And, the contingency fund that, the government is supposed to dig into in times where it's a government shutdown to feed people. The Trump administration is saying no. The Supreme Court is saying it's all over the place. You don't know what to believe with these devils. But let's listen to this. This is off of Jay Reed's channel. Brings out some good information. Fair use. I don't make any money from these videos. All right. We do these videos for the edification of the elect and the condemnation of this world, man, because this world is completely out of order. Okay. And these Edomites are showing themselves to be the devil. Meanwhile, the people of Israel are still crying about ancient customs, calling the men of the Lord, pedos and creeps and freaks and grapists and slandering, not knowing and understanding that all of these things that your enemy is doing, they're going to affect you at some day and point. And at that point, there ain't going to be no cloak for your sins, for your wickedness, for your rebellion. Let's listen to this devil. Okay? Devil's gonna dev.
Absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do. In absurd ruling because...
So the title of the video is Trump is fighting to cut food stamps again after being forced to pay. So we heard they were forced to pay, right? And then we look up the next day and they're saying, no, we're not. Then we look up the next day and we say that they say they're going to pay half. Okay.
absurd ruling because you have a federal judge effectively telling us what we have to do in the midst of a Democrat government shutdown, which what we'd like to do is for the Democrats to open up the government. Of course, then we can fund SNAP and we can also do a lot of other good things for the American people. But in the midst of a shutdown, we can't have a federal court telling the president how he has to triage the situation. We're trying to keep as much turned on. We're trying to keep as much going as possible. The president and the entire administration are working on that, but we're not going to do it under the orders of a federal judge. We're going to do it according to what we think we have to do to comply with the law, of course, but also to actually make the government work for people in the midst of the Democrat government shutdown. If they would like to end this, we would welcome working with them to end this government shutdown, and then we wouldn't have to triage what we're going to fund and what we're not going to fund. And the last thing that I'll say is the American people are unfortunately about to start suffering some very real consequences because of the shutdown.
Pretty much. And y'all know they were ordered to bring back food stamps. They were ordered to, refund and bring and fund the federal, food stamp SNAP benefits across the United States to feed the American people. Because y'all know right now it is an absolute crisis right now for the American people who are on these programs. And, right now you got so many people, you got food stamps that are overloaded. Food banks that are overloaded, lines super long across many different, cities, states, amongst many different facilities, and people just literally can't eat. So within the midst of this, they were ordered by the federal government courts.
Okay, so the federal government court ordered them to pay benefits.
Not federal government, the federal courts to fund SNAP benefits. And now they're trying to fight back against this entire system and to fight back and say, "Oh, we're going to do it our way." And we're going to pretty much what he's saying is we don't care about the law. We don't care about the American people. It's about pulling our weight and keeping our hands strong and continue to put the hammer down and continue to own the liberals so we can actually win this government shutdown. Because you heard the first thing that came out of his mouth was, it's the Democratic Party. This is the reason why we're shutting down, right? That's the first thing that they always say. And I always told y'all, and I said this.
So this is what biblical prophecy told us. The two horns like a lamb will be used to bring about the scenario of them speaking as a dragon. And we're witnessing it. Okay, this all mimics the ancient Western Roman Empire, man. This is the image of the beast speaking and living in our day. All right, preparing you to bow to his image, his policies, his system, his technocracy, okay, his way of doing things, his systems, his biometric digital ID, okay, which is all fulfilled in the revival of Rome, the fourth beast being revived. And then he's going to tell you, you got to get a mark, all right, of servitude, a badge of a mark of ultimately an oath, all right, to this system and to them as God, so that you can live a normal life and be a human being on the planet Earth. After they kill off the mass majority of the people, they're going to say, in order for you to, really compete or be a human being on the planet Earth, you're going to have to merge yourself with machine. Okay? You're going to have to become a cyborg in order to survive. Okay, which he's going to recreate man in his image for his purpose. All right, and what we're seeing through this fiasco is just an aspect of a squeeze, psychological operation and draining people. That is what the devil does. As a matter of fact, I was reading this earlier. This is the book of Sirach, chapter 12 and 10 in the GNT. Never trust an enemy. This is why the Lord has given us this truth. All right, although we're in this world, we use this world as not abusing it. We have to prepare ourselves to trust in the Lord's provision, which he has already foretold. It's already written that we will have provision. Pro before vision. The Lord already has a vision set to where you're going to eat, to where you're going to drink, to where you're going to, it's going to take you outside of your comfort zone, but it's the only way out. Okay, again, it's going to be bitter, but it's going to be more sweet. Bittersweet, the bittersweet exodus. Remember the bitterness of being, exodus out of Egypt showed forth with many of our people in the wilderness. where they had to separate from Egypt. They didn't want to do it. Okay? Well, the Lord is going to put his spirit in his elect. Okay, we're going to make it, man. We're going to be all right. Okay? Never trust an enemy. His wickedness is as destructive as rust. Watch out and be on guard against him, even if he ever acts so humble. He is like a metal mirror that rusts away if you don't keep it polished. Seat an enemy at your right hand, and the next thing you know, he'll be trying to get your own place of honor. Put him next to you and he will overthrow you. Then you will realize the truth of my words and be stung with regret when you remember them. A lot of our people get ready to be stung with regret, trusting this devil, arguing, for the Democrats or arguing for the Republicans. A lot of you have no excuse. Okay? Because a lot of you are of the opinion that Kamala would have been, okay, we only got 3 more years of this shit, and then a Democrat will get in there and bring back, nah, man. Nobody feels sorry for snake charmers, and that's what our people are. They're snake charmers. All right? You stand up there playing with a snake, then he bites you. Right? Well, you're getting bit right now. Or a wild animal tamer who gets bitten. And nobody will feel sorry for you if you run around with sinners and get involved in their wrongdoing. An enemy will stay with you for a while, but not when trouble comes. He will speak fine words while he plots how to trap you. He will pretend to share your sorrows, but he will kill you if he gets a chance. If trouble comes your way, you will find him waiting, ready to trip you up while he pretends to help you. And this is ultimately what these devils are doing. Okay, they're bringing about all of these problems, getting reactions, and they're getting ready to bring the solution. Okay, which this is a big part of the solution that's coming. Be prepared to see this being talked about by the Trump administration. All right. Which these are going to be bipartisan, they're going to agree on this. We need to bring about a universal basic income, which, I've done a lesson on it. But let's listen to a little bit of this article. As people are perplexed, and a lot of them are being driven mad.
Neo-feudalism is expressed by a clique of mega-billionaires controlling the technologies that put millions out of work and then offering universal basic income, UBI, as a way to enslave all others permanently. The tipping point will be the realization that machines, AI, can more reliably make more profit than people can. Sam Altman has sold this scam to the whole world, and the Fortune 1000 are panting for it. Patrick Wood, editor. I once worked in communities supported mainly through a form of universal basic income, UBI. Most money was received from the government for no or token work, or from mining royalties where others worked digging on the community's lands. There were walls black and heaving with cockroaches, while children slept with dogs on stained mattresses below, and babies covered head to toe in pustular scabies, while the mother complained about a sore back. This was not universal, but not uncommon. Other communities that stood out as strong and healthy had people working hard for a living, particularly in roles that reflected their culture, a very different economy. Men who once worked hard to support families lose the reason to do so when it makes no real difference, when basics of life and leisure are equally available to those who work for them and those who do nothing. It is not a political issue, just a human behavioral and psychological one. Removing the need to work and the dignity that striving and succeeding brings, especially for one's family, leads to inaction, loss of interest in the world, a loss of role, loss of dignity, and depression.
And jobs are being taken away by the billions. And it's going to only get worse as AI is taking over. Okay? Remember, your president told you we're going to bring jobs back to the U.S. We're going to make U.S. the powerhouse, only for his ass to introduce your ass to all of these technocrats, all right, who are setting up AI systems to take your job. Okay? That's why it's best to stay out of these politics And don't trust these devils, man. Lean on Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. But you see your brothers out there preaching, warning you, and the first thing you want to do is make a mockery, tell them how crazy they look, tell them how crazy they sound, tell them how hateful they are. All right, well, let's see how hateful it is when your ass is starving and being told you got to take a microchip in order to buy some lettuce. All right, genetically altered lettuce, fake food, bugs. Okay? Remember, the scriptures told you many great miseries are coming.
This is dampened by alcohol or drugs. Wives and children suffer by being beaten up by drunk, frustrated, and drug-addled men. Having too frequently drunk parents ensure...
And during the COVID lockdowns, they said domestic violence increased. Well, you just wait till these times what it's going to lead to. Okay, suicide, mass, the death, people losing their minds. You think crashing out on the internet in these cars via these videos is one thing. Again, this place is being plagued by violence. Death. Unclean spirits all over the place as a result of the mental manipulation, the psychological operation that has been played on them by the devil.
Children are malnourished and aimless. This is not theoretical. It is seen all over the world where people of one culture are overrun by those of another and confined to subservience, economic and societal irrelevance and handouts. Some people and communities break out of it, usually by finding ways to grow their local economy and achieve some form of self-governance and self-reliance. Breaking out is not common and requires an opportunity, the possibility, to do so. Our brave new technocratic world. The road much of the developed world is currently on is towards UBI, but without that potential for escape. I use this term developed in a technological sense, not a human sense, as it denotes technology rather than awareness. UBI will be introduced as a panacea to the problem of artificial intelligence replacing a lot of jobs. The use of AI is increasing because it can accumulate wealth for investors more reliably than employees can. Amazon's plans to replace humans with robots will not only mean a few 100,000 human jobs gone at Amazon, but lots more high street shops boarded up and their employees and owners gone. AI may be overplayed or not, but what Amazon is doing will be widely repeated.
All right, let's get empty. I believe it's 2nd Esdras 6. Boom. 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and 22. All right. Started 18, and it said, Behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them, all right, and what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction or the humiliation of Zion, the true biblical Israelites, shall be fulfilled. So our affliction is being fulfilled, man. Okay, and the Lord is going to have favor on his elect bride. Okay, but many of our people are going to suffer. But the Lord is making inquisition of the wickedness going on in this world. It's being investigated. That's the purpose of the two witnesses, all right, the elect of Judah and Ephraim being raised up here in the latter days, starting here in Babylon the Great, and also throughout the four corners of the earth. You have the true men of the Lord witnessing, testifying against this world, against these rulers. And when the world shall begin to vanish away, which we're witnessing shall be finished, then I will show these tokens. The book shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall all see together. We're all seeing prophecy being fulfilled. Okay? It says, and the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. We saw that heavily during the demic. All right? Women shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months, premature babies, and they shall live. So we live in a very unnatural environment. Okay, and they shall be raised up, nigga, grow up, all right, and become a basketball star. You was born, all right, you came out of the womb at 3 months, and now they got the technology to put your ass in the incubator and raise your ass up. Okay, and you grow up underdeveloped. But with this technology, all right, these niggas grow up, okay, and dunking from the free throw line. It says, and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. The trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man hear it, they shall be suddenly afraid. So things are, all right, getting ready to shut down, all right, private, businesses, as these corporations hoard everything to themselves, all right, private businesses, all of that people have is all gonna what get shut down. Restaurants, okay, all of these things are what the store, the places where things were flourishing and sown with people are going to be unsown, and full storehouses shall be suddenly found empty.
The people out of work, by and large, will be city and town dwellers who must obtain their food from shops or Amazon. They will need to be given money or food vouchers to do this. Governments will provide these because they cannot afford responsibility for abject poverty on a mass scale, and many in government also mean well. People will increasingly rent their housing from Blackstone or a similar corporate entity rather than own it, further increasing their dependence. For a while, some people will play online games or draw pictures and grow token lettuces on their balconies, but knowing this is just window dressing on life. Then they will go the way of the communities at the top of this piece, taking families and communities with them. Government UBI will happen. It already does to some extent in the widespread use of welfare payments, but the future will see it on a far, far larger scale. It will not be cash handouts, but digital currency. This will be a tightly controlled version, as in a central bank digital currency, CBDC, because the government will claim responsibility to control the money it dispenses. CBDC is essentially food vouchers.
And see, what this does is it takes away dependency from the Lord. This is from chat. I was just asking some questions. It said, from the beginning, God made the earth to serve man, not man to serve a system. Every seed, every creature, and every river was designed to reflect God's providence. But in the modern world, systems are arising that replace dependence on the Most High with dependence on man, digital IDs, cashless economies, and artificial control of food and resources. What was once a divine relationship, all right, of trust in God's provision has become a digital relationship of trust in data, systems, and governments. See that? And this is what we're witnessing. Okay, let's get a few videos. All right, let's look at a little bit more of the squeeze they bring in. This elder always puts, some good videos up. Let's look at the hell people are catching. Then we'll get into, all right, what they're bringing about as a solution, which is going to lead to the MOTB. Okay, this is America has failed you. Nothing can save her now. GMS, inspiration of the Almighty. And let's get the book of Isaiah 47, man. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Okay, sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. So the Lord is telling Babylon the Great, sit your ass down. It's time out for Babylon, all right? And he's using your very elites, the people you trusted in, because they're rich, right? To ruin your lives, man. Okay? And they're going to come about with a solution to all of this hell we witnessing these people catch. GMS, inspiration of the Almighty. Subscribe and be edified.
It is better for you to leave first and to set up a soft landing for your other immediate friends and family.
I'm just going to say it because nobody else is saying it, even though we're all thinking it. The American dream is to leave America.
Nearly 9 million Americans have left the country. And if there were a new state called Expatland, it would probably be more populous than Vermont, Wyoming, and Alaska combined. After all, what made citizens of the world's richest nation, once hailed as the land of the American dream, choose to leave their own homeland?
American celebrities are joining the exodus out of the United
That's scriptural, right? Was that Jeremiah 50, I believe? Or maybe Jeremiah 51. Let me see. Yep, Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. They've taken on their democracy, their way of life, their way of thought, how to deal with women, how men, and it has just caused the nations to lose their goddamn minds, man. Babylon has suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain? If so be she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her. Let us go everyone into his own country, for her judgment reaches unto heaven and is lifted up even unto the skies. Okay? So people are trying to flee Babylon. They're trying to get the hell up out of here. Okay?
United States. Beyonce and Jay-Z, who are both billionaires individually and together, are currently building a 58-acre compound in the Cotswolds area of the United Kingdom. Come with us.
Some of our family.
Out of the U.S.
Literally witnessing prophecy be fulfilled. But Jake playing games.
It's too short. So I'm getting the hell out of America, and I'm going to live my life as I should. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life working 40 hours a week at a job, and all I can do is come home and pay bills.
Funny enough, if you Google layoffs, guess what? In the last 2 days, UPS, 48,000 jobs.
The morale is broken. All right, we bring this out every news and prophecy, and we go keep bringing it out. Okay? Isaiah 19:3, I am going to frustrate the plans of the Egyptians and destroy their morale. See? Hurt.
Being anomaly, maybe not. Paramount, 1,000. Target, 1,800. Chegg, 45% of workforce. Microsoft, 15,000 layoffs. What do you think that is? Do you think that that is no hiring? No hiring, the Great Freeze? Or do you think that the companies are actually out there chopping their workforce right and left?
The U.S. just had its worst October for job layoffs since 2003. 2003. There are no jobs right now. Inflation is out of control, and nobody is doing anything about it. The U.S.
So the entire U.S. economy is just 7 companies moving $1 trillion back and forth to each other. A recent Bloomberg article titled OpenAI, NVIDIA fuel $1 trillion AI market with a web of circular deals sheds light on the rapid flow of capital in the AI ecosystem.
We're making the United States the Bitcoin superpower, the crypto capital of the world, and the undisputed leader in artificial intelligence. Will lead.
People clap for it, but look, this is how it looks. Dummy.
China by a lot. Don't forget, if we don't do the crypto properly, China wants to do it. They're starting it. Crypto was in 3 years.
Barring some last-minute change or development, this is going to go down as the longest shutdown in U.S. history. At your airport, at this airport, TSA officers and air traffic controllers continue to work without a paycheck. We had 4,500 flight delays yesterday, and the fear is if this continues, it will only get worse.
To somehow fathom that we could go into the holiday season still in a government shutdown, I can't even begin to predict what the impacts will be across this country. 3-hour TSA wait lines will be the least of our worries. We will see a system that has so many issues inside of it that we'll do everything we can to be the professionals that show up and try to move the aircraft across the airspace. But at the same time, we can't make the impossible possible if it's just going to be putting us in an impossible situation.
Politically, President Trump has been a failure in his first year of his second term. The president was involved in and lost the Wisconsin Supreme Court races. He was involved in and lost both of these governor's races. He even endorsed a non-Republican in the mayor's race in New York and lost. So I hope that this gives courage to people who've lacked it in Congress to do their jobs again.
So far this year, the president has pardoned or shortened the sentences of more than 1,600 people. The latest pardon was for a cryptocurrency tycoon who is known as CZ. The company CZ founded, Binance, helped boost the profile of the Trump family's crypto firm, World Liberty Financial.
$300 million. That's how much FEMA disaster relief money was quietly redirected to fund Donald Trump's golf trips. And today, Congressman Dan Goldman is calling it out in a fiery takedown that exposes how deeply corruption and misplaced priorities have infected Washington. This isn't just politics. This is about accountability, justice, and the American taxpayer.
I rebuilt the military. We have the strongest military by far in the world. We make the best equipment, the best missiles, the best rockets, the best everything. We redid our nuclear. We're the #1 nuclear power, which I hate to admit because it's so horrible.
So why won't Putin end this war?
But Nora, that was Joe Biden's war, not my war. I inherited that stupid war.
As the bloodiest land war in Europe since World War II continues.
But just a little list of look at this. Wars.
President Trump wanted to make sure we saw the list of 8 international conflicts he says he's been able to end since returning to office.
No, don't listen to Putin about nuclear weapons. He's just bluffing. When the world ends, you won't be able to say, yes, he wasn't bluffing. I've been watching this close up, and damn it, we're close to disaster. In 20, well, it's obvious. Venezuela has the world's largest reserves of oil. We're trying to steal them, pure and simple. It's not even complicated. This has nothing to do with narcotics trafficking at all. This is an insult to our intelligence to walk.
Raising the elect 144, the reign of the cruel Lord is causing pain in Babylon. Listen to a little bit of this, and then I'll get a few videos that I wanted to really tap into.
Something, man. They not opening the government back up. To all them employees that being laid off during this crisis, it's over with. They not opening the government back up. This been the plan the whole time, y'all. Make it make sense. I'm pretty sure by now, y'all done seen them people in Houston at the airport, thousands of people at the airport, no employees there. TSA didn't show up because, the government paid them. Look, it's over with. There is no government. That's the big secret. Y'all haven't caught on yet. Listen, man, they running a psyops on us every week to see if we gonna go for it. They running a psyops on us every week to see if we gonna go for what they putting down, y'all. Make it make sense. And guess what? People are going for it. They still going to work. They still paying taxes. Make it make sense. These billionaires could have been kicked the money in for Snap. They could have been kicked down the money for Snap, y'all. Make it make sense. Y'all, it's over with. The way we was living, it's over with. Y'all don't understand that this is the time that we need to come together. It don't matter the color. It don't matter the race. None of that matters right now. It's over with. The government over with. Get in the comments and let me know what you think.
Y'all, the government may not actually ever reopen. I was watching a video on here, and the person was talking about how they don't think that the government will actually ever reopen. And at first, I was like, nah, that's crazy. I used to work for the government. I do real estate now. But the government has to reopen, right? Well, the more I think about it, the more every day goes along in this country, the more I realize that's actually not that crazy of a thought. When you have an administration that's essentially saying they don't ever want another election, and there looks like there's no opening the government back up on the horizon, maybe it won't ever open back up. It's not as far-fetched when I really think about it and talk it out.
And we're witnessing an incompetent government. One of my favorite scriptures is here in Proverbs 28:2. Okay, we'll get it in the NLT. When there is moral rot within a nation because of the rulers, so in the Sirach, the 10th chapter, its government topples easily, but wise and knowledgeable leaders bring stability. There is no stability under the devil, the seed of Satan. Okay, he's only brought you to this place, he's brought you this far through nourishments and handouts, only to leave you out to dry, to get you to bow your knee to what he's getting ready to bring.
You have TSA, where the lines I've heard at some airports are extremely long because TSA is not coming to work. You can't force someone to come to work when they're not getting paid. And even in real estate, they're telling us to expect delays for FHA loans because it's government backed. As a former government employee that has gone through a shutdown before and has been furloughed before because of government funding, this feels different.
Government doesn't open back up, people are going to steal. People are going to steal, they're going to rob, they're going to be breaking into people's houses, they're going to get what they family need. And that's just how the cars are going to go at the end of the day. People are going to go and rob. I don't think the government is not going to open back up, but I do think it's going to take a long period of time. And right now, flying is definitely not an option at this current time. Don't do it, okay? Do not fly. I would highly advise you not to fly, okay? Okay, because it is going to be crazy. All right, you're going to go and stand in line to try to get on a plane, and you're going to be there forever, for hours. Okay, there are 20 airlines or 40 airlines or 40 places, I believe, that I just seen the other day that already said that it's going to be horrible. And don't even waste your time going to that particular place because you're going to be there for a long time waiting on your flights. Okay, this government shutdown is causing so much problems or so many problems. It is ridiculous. So the best thing you can do is pay attention. on what's going on so that you can survive through this, because this is nuts. Okay, but I love you too.
State workers, they are still doing their jobs at the airports without a paycheck. Fox 5 Sophia Rinsma is live.
How much longer you think people gonna be showing up to work, all right, without, getting paid? All right, so this is gonna cause this just further to collapse, further hell, further, all right, what prophecy said. What does it say in 2nd Esdras, the 15th chapter, right? It says, 2nd Esdras 15 and 16, there shall be sedition among men and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Okay, verse 19 is what I wanted. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Okay? And this is what they want to justify bringing in, all right, the digital plan, the digital ID.
To be able to access these services.
Let's go here. They are planning complete financial lockdown. Whitney Webb's warning.
There's a coordinated global policy push for digital IDs as the new form of government-issued identification credentials.
Now, we always talk about this, but check what the DHS, okay, is planning on before we get into that. With these immigrants, okay, problem, reaction, solution. Immigrants, DNA to be tested under new DHS plan. The Department of Homeland Security has proposed a new rule that would expand the collection and use of biometrics from individuals applying for immigration benefits, including DNA testing, according to a filing in the Federal Register. So they want your biometrics, okay, and it will be on a record. As a matter of fact, this lady brought it out here.
Hey, Immigration Fam, the government is proposing a new rule that could scare people away from legal immigration, and nobody is even talking about it because they don't know. So let me break it down. There's a proposed DHS rule that would expand biometrics collection for not just the immigrant, but for anybody associated with that immigration application. That means petitioners, co-sponsors, sponsors, derivatives. This means that U.S. citizen, green card holders, U.S. nationals, anybody that's involved in this immigration process will be required to submit a full biometric data. A full biometrics data includes fingerprint, DNA, eye scan. This requirement for full biometrics collection is without regards to the age of the person. Currently, if you're under the age of 14 or over the age of 79, you're not required to submit biometrics information. This new rule would change that to be applicable to everyone unless the people that DHS specifically exempt. DHS is framing this rule as part of identity verification, but it's really a deterrent to legal immigration. Think about it. Who's going to want to file an affidavit of support or file a joint sponsor affidavit of support if they knew that the government would require such invasive information about them? Now, the proposed rule says that attorneys are exempt for now, which in itself suggests that DHS is keeping this door open for later. We have until...
This is the lead into the MOTB. As a matter of fact, what I'm going to ask is, how can DHS how can new requirements by DHS or immigrants to give DNA, biometrics, fingerprints, because they gave you the issue, the problem, they gave you the reaction. Now they have a solution, the deportations, this. Well, now if you're going to be over here, okay, this is going to be the system. They're going to bring about this system for everybody. Okay. Let's see here. Microchip. Let's just say lead to a microchip. It's pretty much. And we'll go back there. Let it load up, but you've raised a thoughtful question about the possible connection between expanding biometric DNA collection and more advanced identity control systems. All right. So, I don't want to read into all of this. While the DHS has not publicly announced a plan to implant microchips into citizens or immigrants, the following logical steps illustrate how the current trajectory of biometric DNA collection could move toward a more integrated identity control systems. Okay? Accumulation and linkage of many biometric and genetic identifiers, collecting DNA, face, iris scan, fingerprints, linking them to biographic data mean the government builds a rich identity profile for each person. Once many identifiers are captured, biometric, genetic, biographic, those data can be, which is why they got those data centers everywhere, can be used for recognition, verification, tracking of movements, all right, associations, and history. In principle, the more data points you have, the more you can link identity to behavior networks and possibly predict or monitor actions. And there's more, all right? But it's going to lead, this is all leading to the MOTB. And when you look at people, the comments, they're saying this is great news. This will help locate missing women and children who are being trafficked. You think so? All right. They know exactly where these people are going. No, this is going to be, they're going to tell you that's one of the possible, ways it can be used, but it's going to be used for this digital enslavement. Okay, that they're setting up. Okay, we just saw Jamaica's president, all right, say you must prepare for the fourth industrial revolution after that storm. All right, let's listen to this.
For this dispensation of the fourth industrial revolution, where the cyber world will be paired with the physical world. So you're living in the cyber physical. Technology and machines are working together, not just to deliver services in an independent way that was largely delivered in a non-physical way. Now, as was demonstrated, you have machines that can be deployed with artificial intelligence that can function physically. So it's not just call center jobs that we need to be looking at very closely. It is other kinds of jobs that will also be impacted. The solution is not to hide from it. It's not to be fearful of it. The solution is for us to use the technology to increase the level of training and skills in our society so that our people can take on higher order tasks which bring higher order pay.
Look at all of the comments. And I believe that's their president. All right. Andre, let me make sure I'm not just spreading. Prime Minister, President, whatever. Yeah. Constitutional monarchy, yada, yada, yada. This is him. Prime Minister of Jamaica. Okay. Because I believe they were British conquered it.
So.
But people, everybody, no to the mark chip, no to digital ID. This hurricane was not a coincidence. Looking it up, Jamaica has comprehensive plans for smart city development, including a new city project from the ground to address overcrowding and infrastructure strain, and a demonstration project in New Kingston to test and implement smart technologies. These initiatives are a part of a broader vision 2030 for Jamaica. So all of these different, worldwide, this is being set up. Okay, we already know about Sweden.
hands, turning humans into walking wallets. No cash, no cards, no wallets. Thousands of people in Sweden have taken a bold step into the future by implanting tiny microchips under their skin. About the size of a grain of rice, these chips act as digital IDs, payment methods, and access cards. All in one, from letting them pay for coffee, unlock doors, or ride trains with just a swipe of their hand. It works much like the contactless tap we use on cards. But here, the card is under your skin. So why is this happening in Sweden? The country is already one of the most cashless societies in the world. Only about 1% of its economy runs on notes and coins, compared to 10% in Europe. Among the younger generation, almost everyone relies on apps and digital payments. Even IKEA tested going fully cash-free and discovered that hardly any customers used bills, saving staff hours of time that used to be spent counting coins. But not everyone is celebrating. Seniors and immigrants worry about being left behind, and critics warn of privacy risks if implants ever connect to health records or government IDs. Sweden is showing the world just how far digital life can go. But a question remains, would you put a chip in your hand to pay for coffee?
Microsoft Teams will soon tell your boss when you're not in office. All right. Microsoft is preparing a rollout of a new Teams feature that automatically detects when employees are in the office using company Wi-Fi networks, expected to launch globally in December 2025. Under the system's updates, a worker's location in real time once their device connects to the office network, giving managers visibility into who's on site. All right, people lying on their timesheets. All right. And they're going to see what you're listening to on your phone, what you're listening to on their Wi-Fi. Right? The music you're listening to, the videos you're watching, they'll be able to see it. All right, via this technology, man. It's going full blown. All right, tyranny. Okay? Giving managers visibility to who's on site. Microsoft says it helps coordinate hybrid work schedules, but critics warn it could enable digital micromanagement and workplace surveillance. Admins can disable the feature, and it's off by default for privacy reasons. Yeah, right. So pretty soon they're setting up hell on earth.
Cars are going to be autonomous. But there's just so many desk jobs where really what people are doing is they're processing email, or they're answering the phone, and just anything that isn't moving atoms, like anything that is not physically, like doing physical work, that will obviously be the first thing. Those jobs will be and are being eliminated by AI at a very rapid pace. And ultimately, working will be optional, because you'll have robots plus AI, and we'll have, in a benign scenario, universal high income, not just universal basic income, universal high income, meaning anyone can have any products or services that they want. But there will be a lot of trauma and disruption along the way.
So they've been planning on this. Okay, they've been planning to do this. Okay, but we just showing you that it's happening. Okay, because what this devil was going to bring about is what the scripture said he was going to bring about. Okay, it's nothing that can break what the scriptures have prescribed, man. Okay, verse 16 in Revelation 13, and he calls it all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. Okay, but let's check this out.
There's a coordinated global policy push for digital IDs as the new form of government-issued identification credentials. And they're essentially all based on your biometric data, which can be your fingerprints, your face, the iris of your eyeball. And the idea is essentially to collect all of that data and have it housed or have it tied directly to your digital ID. So your physical ID will be mapped to the digital ID. Digital IDs are not really a separate project from CBDCs and this new digital financial system. And UN documentation and also documentation from the Bank of International Settlements, they very overtly state that CBDCs and digital IDs are meant to go together. And without digital IDs, the CBDC digital finance system cannot exist. One of the reasons it can't exist without that is because of the KYC functionality built into this digital financial system. They have the know your customer protocols. They have to know who you are. And so they want to have your wallet tied to a digital ID and have that digital ID be mapped to your physical ID through the biometric data collection.
One blink, and your identity unlocks a programmable wallet. That's the latest message from writer and journalist Whitney Webb. Governments and global institutions are standardizing digital IDs built on biometrics, then wiring those IDs to your money. In this model, your face, fingerprints, or iris confirm every transaction and gate access to basic services. The stated goal is inclusion through Know Your Customer, or KYC rules, and safer payments. The design also concentrates power, since the same ID can switch your wallet on or off. But it doesn't end there. The next phase links identity, wallets, and policy in one infrastructure. Make sure to stick around until the end of the video, as Whitney Webb maps how digital IDs and central bank rails converge, and why that matters for your day-to-day freedom. Before we jump into it, just a quick reminder, only a small percentage of you watching are actually subscribed. If you're getting value from the videos, hit that subscribe button. It's free, it supports the channel, and you can always change your mind later. Now let's hear Whitney's breakdown of the digital ID and CBDC blueprint.
So there's different efforts to make digital IDs either as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. There's also the efforts of Sam Altman of OpenAI and his WorldCoin project, whereby you scan your iris, you give them the biometric credentials of your eyeball. They give you a unique identifier, a digital ID, and it's inherently tied to a digital wallet. That is the same model the UN is using. They've already implemented it for refugees getting food assistance from the World Food Program. It's called Building Blocks. It's on blockchain. It involves refugees scanning their irises. And in order to buy food or receive their rations, they have to check out of a grocery store style place in the refugee camp, and they check out biometrically with an eyeball scan. And then the amount of food they have, the monetary value of that is subtracted from their digital wallet connected to their digital ID and their iris. It doesn't matter what country you're in or whether you're part of BRICS or part of the collective West. This is being rolled out across the board.
So what entities are pushing this interoperability?
One of the main reasons for this coordinated global push to develop digital IDs is because it's deemed essential to the entire Sustainable Development Agenda, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, also known as Agenda 2030. And the specific part dealing with digital IDs is within SDG 16, which is about building peaceful and inclusive societies. One of the indicators of SDG 16, 16.9, calls for legal identification for everyone in the world from the time they're born, essentially. The leading alliance that was launched under the auspices of the UN to accomplish that is known as ID 2020 and has since been folded into what is called the Digital Impact Alliance, which essentially has the same funders and founders as ID 2020. So ID 2020, the UN and other stakeholders in this particular sphere often argue that the reason this is necessary is because of what they call the identity gap. And the identity gap is the claim that the lack of digital ID is preventing people, mainly the world's poor, from accessing essential services, whether it's banking, whether it's education, whether it's healthcare. They claim the only way for these people to be able to access these services is to onboard them to these identity schemes. So what they mean by essential services is, they say without these forms of recognized identity, people in the world, mainly the world's poor, are unable to access bank accounts, unable to access healthcare, unable to access government services.
You clearly can see what this devil is doing. Everything that's happening around us is leading to this. And meanwhile, you got weak, soft, emotional, weirdos crying about eating food sacrificed to idols, man. While this nigga is on camera eating In-N-Out burger. Deacon Hakai, you are a complete... All right, I just looked at something some brother said. He talking about, I can't be a part of this community no more. Y'all, like you have all of these leaders a lot of these leaders are getting ready to jump ship. See? Oh, man. Salakia, but we can clearly see where this is going, man.
Variety of things because they don't have ID or they don't have bank accounts, things of that nature. So in order to allow everyone to access all of these things and include them, hence the frequent word of inclusion in all these documents, they say digital ID is the necessary way to bridge this identity gap. One of the main words they use to market this stuff is equity and inclusion, the idea that we need to include everybody in these new systems. But if you don't participate in digital ID, you won't have a legally recognized identity, you won't have rights, you won't be able to access services without it. So it's being framed as promoting inclusion, but the system itself is inherently exclusionary and has been used to track and surveil people, to link people to, essentially all their activities, what they say online in some of the countries that have rolled this out, and has been used to facilitate human rights abuses. So it's not exactly as inclusive as they like to claim. It's inclusive in the sense that we want everyone equally included in our new system that we're creating, our new control system, fundamentally. The UN likes to talk about human rights and how this is ultimately a human rights project and things like that, or how it's empowering human rights. But in other documents of the UN, they refer to human rights not as inalienable rights, which is what most people think of when they hear the term human rights. In some of these UN documents, they refer to human rights explicitly as policy tools, or tools that can be used to basically implement, specific things and mechanisms that ultimately give, greater control over really any aspect of your life that they may want to influence. These guys also admit that the digital ID and CBDC is meant to be the same thing, and there's some very illuminating policy documents in this regard. So, for example, there's this one UN document called the People's Money, they call it, and it essentially talks about creating a citizen-centric, SDG-aligned digital financial system, which is obviously the system that we've been talking about. And what they say in there is essentially once your savings and your money is onboarded onto the system, they feel that they reserve the right to access and use your funds to develop and implement the sustainable development goals or build the infrastructure necessary for it. So they essentially think that your money is their money. When COVID was happening,
banks already do that.
There was this push for vaccine passports, and a lot of the people that were pushing or creating the vaccine passports were part of this either ID 2020 or they were part of related entities pushing for digital ID. And essentially what happened with the vaccine passport was to link your identity to your travel, to the freedom of movement. And if you didn't have one, you were excluded from entering certain places. So that, again, highlights the idea of how these digital IDs are inherently exclusionary, because if you don't have one, then you're excluded from, moving where other people.
That's ultimately, they're going to make you bow to their image. Okay? And if you don't, you're going to be killed. Now, this word kill, we always show you, means what? To be separated. Meaning you're not going to be granted fellowship with the system. So you're going to be killed off digitally. Okay? To where now I can't travel. I can't, buy. I can't sell. I can't go into this particular place. I can't go into that particular place. I can't travel to this place. This is what's being set up. Get this nigga off the screen. This is what's being set up worldwide. Okay? This is what they're doing. Okay? Point blank period. Prophecy is being fulfilled. Let's look at a little bit of this one too.
Yeah, well, digital ID is really the linchpin to, the sustainable development goals, as well as this mass surveillance paradigm that's being sold to us by oligarchs on the left and the right. It would be your unique identifier for the digital world. The goal is to have it be the way for you to offer your credentials to every service that you access, period. Everything ranging from healthcare to telecommunications, your social media accounts. And as things become increasingly digitally connected, perhaps even your appliances, if they're smart appliances at some point, won't function without you having the proper credentials to show that it's you. So ultimately, if people want to...
In this recent interview with Glenn Beck, Whitney Webb reveals hidden layers of control embedded in the digital infrastructure shaping our world. She exposes how mass surveillance is evolving beyond simple monitoring into predictive policing and behavioral manipulation, and how digital ID systems serve as the backbone of this system. Webb also unpacks the secretive financialization of nature through blockchain tokenization, a plan to commodify the environment and expand global control under the guise of innovation.
So, I think ultimately it's never been more important to be a critical thinker and to do as much of your own research as possible. And the best way to do that research, like what I just talked about regarding, the UN and digital ID and how they say it, it's in their own documents. You just have to go in and read it. And not everyone can do that. But if these are issues that particularly concern you, we absolutely should, make that effort. And also, I think, in the COVID era, for example, a lot of people were against these particular policies, digital ID being one of them. But these people will repackage and rename and sell you the same policy under different metrics and under a different name with a different face that they deem, polling shows they're more politically palatable to that particular demographic or what have you. So I think the more we focus on the policies that we don't want, the better off we'll be instead of the person selling it to us. Fight against this mass surveillance paradigm and these efforts to usher us into a very dark, I would argue, a technocratic future. The most important thing is to not comply with digital ID, because it's the single most important piece of infrastructure that they need, and they need us to voluntarily consent, because even if they roll it out and people, it will fail if people decline to use it.
Well, if those people don't have access to food, those people don't have jobs, if they're being told the only way you can get this universal basic income, okay, access to buy and sell, most people will take it.
So ultimately, so much effort is being spent on convincing us to adopt it. And so we need to be laser focused on that policy and say, no, thank you. Well, I would argue because a lot of these companies that are engaged in these mass surveillance, or the contractors really that are engaged in mass surveillance, don't ultimately have just watching what you're doing as being enough for them. They're ultimately interested in things like predictive analytics and predictive policing. So based on your behavior now and your behavior in the past, they want to use artificial intelligence to determine what you may do in the future. And in the case of predictive policing, that would be, well, we've determined that you may commit a crime in the future. And so we're going to, send you to a court-ordered physician, or, issue house arrest to stop crime before it happens, essentially, is where a lot of these companies, and unfortunately it is that. And there's a lot of companies that have made massive inroads in that type of technology, even though it's been hugely discredited. There's several companies. I think the most notorious at this point was called Predpol. They've since rebranded, but they were less accurate than a coin toss, and people were being, deprived of their liberty because of an algorithm that was hugely inaccurate. And ultimately, if you look in the UK, for example, some of these algorithms for facial recognition have been rolled out, even though they've been shown over there, too, to be hugely inaccurate. And there's no interest in changing vendors, even when this inaccuracy is demonstrated. So to me, that says that their goal is to have us induce and beat obedience by the fact that you're being watched all the time, and anything you may do could be used against you, even if you're not doing anything wrong now. An algorithm could determine that certain, errant behaviors warrant you being added to a list of some type. And actually, Larry Ellison of Oracle, who is one of the main funders of Tony Blair's institute, that's one of the biggest pushers for digital ID in the U.S.
This is who Trump presented to you when he got elected. So, we can play a little bit more, but it should be very, 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 very clear. All right. Let's see here. Let's get the book of Revelation 22 and 10. While you got guys making all of these minuscule arguments, crying about this, crying about that, the Lord, is doing his work, man. Revelation 22 and 10, and he said unto me, seal not the sayings of the prophecy of this book, for the time is at hand. Okay? The time is at hand. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. He which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be. So we are in these times, all right, where the judgments of Yahweh Bashim Yahshai and these prophecies are getting ready to be fulfilled. Okay? Let's see here. Revelation 1 and 3, blessed is he that readeth and hear the words of the book, hear the words of the prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Okay, Romans 13 and 12, for the night is far spent and the day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness, and let us put on the armor of light. Okay? Faithful and true. Revelation 22 and 6. And he said unto me, these sayings are faithful and true. Okay? And the Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly come to pass. And we are right now witnessing prophecy, all right, being fulfilled on a level that the earth has never seen, man. We here, man.
UK said this at an Oracle shareholder meeting that, we're recording and surveilling everything, and citizens will be on their best behavior because they have to, essentially, paraphrasing. Yeah, a lot of them are I would argue overtly and also covertly globalist. You have people, in that network you just mentioned, serving, for example, on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, which is, a well-known closed-door meeting globalist conflab. And unfortunately, I think some of them anyway, have been able to characterize their policies as.
And you got people asking, are we just going to talk about it, or we go do something about it? A lot of people are getting ready to go after these elites. Okay, they're governors. They're going to find out that it's all a sham, and people are going to be in the streets rioting, man. coming after. You just had the president in Mexico, all right, be taken out. Things are about to get serious, man. Okay? Call Halal Yahweh Bashim Yahushai for giving us insight into the secrets. Now, there's other people who can see where it's going. This is the mark of the beast. They're able to say it, but they really don't get it. And their faith is not, all right, rooted enough. All right, most of them are going to end up folding within the first week. But the elect, the Lord is going to put a special spirit in you, pursuant to the book of Romans, the 11th chapter. Okay, Romans 11:4. But what said the answer of the Most High unto him? I have reserved unto myself 7,000 men, which have not bowed the knee to the image of Baal. 7,000 is ultimately symbolizing the elect. Okay, the men who have the message, and then those of you who ultimately, as Yahweh Shai says here in John 17, all right, because you also have those, John 17 and, let's see, 20, okay, it says, neither I pray for these alone, the teachers, but for them also which shall believe on me through their word. So those of you who are listening to the words of the prophets, praying, repenting, being meek, okay, and in the right spirit, okay, the Lord is going to protect you as well, man. See? Because people are catching hell. First Thessalonians 5:3. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So this, everything we're listening to, this is the aspect of peace and safety, man, when they're about to fill their belly in the fullness of their sufficiency. But the Lord is getting ready to break this madness up, man.
Libertarian, for example, even though some of those same oligarchs are on record saying that the free market is for losers. If you want to get rich, build a monopoly. And build monopolies, they have, unfortunately. But I think, again, this is what I was saying earlier about the World Economic Forum. You know, there's an effort to sell this since they couldn't sell it from the left. The goal now is to try and sell it somehow from the right. And to try and frame it under metrics and dialectics that'll be more appealing to the group that was most against these policies just a few years ago. And unfortunately, you know, with AI and all of that, it could happen if people aren't vigilant. You know, just a few years ago, someone like Elon Musk was a major promoter of things like carbon markets and pricing carbon, for example. And that was actually why he had a falling out with Trump in Trump's first administration, was because Trump pulled out of the Paris agreements, and Elon Musk was like, well, I can't have that. So have these oligarchs really changed, or have they instead tried to make themselves more appealing because they've noticed the change in public opinion and want to try and get, you know, us to continue to buy into their solutions that they have a lot of money to spend convincing us are actually good and rebranding them. And again, this is why I say it's important to focus on the policies specifically.
I want to take a quick moment to talk about another issue. Governments and central banks have been on a silver buying spree, skyrocketing the price to all-time highs earlier this month. Trump added silver to the U.S.'s 2025 critical minerals list.
So you can watch the rest of this video. All right, we're going to move on. Lord willing, I will edify. Shalom.